Hello guys, in this video we are going to discuss the solution of the problem find duplicate rows in a binary matrix. So let us look at the problem statement. In this the problem says that we are given a boolean matrix of size r by c where each cell contains either 0 or 1. So it just contains 0 or 1 entries. Find the row numbers of row which already exist or are repeated. So here what all rows are repeated, those rows we need to those indexes of such rows is what we need to print as our answer. So let us try to understand it with the help of an example. So for instance, in the first example the matrix is of size 2 by 2 and the matrix contains these elements which is 1 0 and 1 0. So clearly row number first 1 comma 0 is a repetition of row number 0 which is 1 comma 0. So that is why here we are printing it as 1. Okay, row number 1. In the second example where the matrix is of size 4 by 3, as you can see row number 1 is again a repetition of row number 0. So 1 is being printed. Alright, and row number 3 is a repetition of row number 2. So that is why we are printing 3. 1 and 3 are being printed in this manner. So okay, having understood the problem statement, now let us go back and look at how we are going to solve this problem. So in order to solve this problem, so let us take the example where my r is equals to 4 and c is equals to 4 and the matrix is basically let us say 1. So let us say 4 by 3 rather than 4 and 4, let us say it is 4 by 3. So this is 1 0 0 and this is also 1 0 0 and these were 0 0 0 0 0 0. So let us understand the brute force solution first and then we will look at the optimal solution. So in the brute force solution, the concept is pretty simple. What we are going to do is that we are going to iterate on the matrix r by c and we are going to check whether, so we will start from here and we are going to check whether this has already been repeated in the upper half of the matrix, right? Because if this is repeated then it should be there just like so. What I mean to say is basically let us say we will start from index I equals to 1 and index j equals to 0. Now we are looking for duplicacy here. So we are basically trying to see whether ARI, this row, is a duplicate. So in order to find the duplicate, what we will say is that we will check whether ARI exist in AR 0 to I minus 1, right? So what I mean to say is that, so in this particular case when I was 1, we will check whether AR1 is there in ARR 0. If it is there, then we are going to print we are going to print this, or we are going to append this in our answer list. Otherwise we will move forward. And so now the second array AR2, we are going to check whether AR2 is there in ARR 0 and ARR 1, right? So that is what I said, this 0 to I minus 1, right? So you are seeing like for 2 I'm trying to check whether AR2 is equals to AR0 or AR2 is equals to AR1. In either case, if it is equal, then I'm going to append index 2 in my answer list, since index 2 is also a duplication. Okay, so that's the brute force approach. Now in the brute force approach, the running time complexity will be basically So the running time complexity will be first. I need to iterate on all the elements of the array. Then once I have iterated on all the elements of the array, then again I need to iterate on all the elements of the array in order to check if there exists a duplicacy or not. So in that way, the running time complexity for this algorithm, the brute force algorithm, will be r square into c square. Alright, so that's about the brute force solution, folks. Now let us look at the optimal solution for this. So let me just write it down over here. Optimal solution. So in the optimal solution, we are going to capitalize. So let us say, let's take the same example where numbers of rows were 4 and numbers of columns were 3, and the matrix was something like this, right? So 1 0 0 and 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0. So from in the question it was mentioned that this is a binary matrix wherein each element will be 1 or 0. So what we are going to do is basically we are going to capitalize this, and we are going to translate this matrix. So we will assume that this is the binary representation of a number. Okay, so 1 0 0. So this is index number 0, index number 1, index number 2, and index number 3. So what I am trying to say here is basically we will say that AR0 equals to the binary representation of that number, right? So AR0, if you see, 1 0 0 was the element which was present, and this is the binary representation. So what we can write it down it as 8, right? Similarly, ARR1 also we can write it down as 8, right? So this is a binary representation. So I hope the concept is clear. So this becomes 8, this becomes 8, this becomes 0, and this remains 0. So essentially the matrix can be translated, or it could be rewritten into this, right? So now what all we have is basically an array, and in an array we need to find a duplicate elements. That's all we need to do. Okay, so how we can do it? So basically, in order to find the duplicate, we are going to use the hashing concept. So what we are going to do is basically we are going to take a hash where we are going to say whether the element, so the decimal equivalent of the binary number will be the key. So here the key is basically decimal equivalent of binary representation, right? Okay, so what I mean to say is basically, so let us say we will start from 0 0 to r, right? And we will have an hash. Right now the hash will be empty. Okay, and what we are going to do is that we are going to compute the decimal equivalent which is present at ARR0. Once I have obtained the decimal equivalent of ARR0. So in this particular case the decimal equivalent is 8. I'm going to check whether 8 exists in my hash or not. In this case 8 does not exist, so I'm going to make an entry of 8, and I'm going to set it as true, that 8 exists in my dictionary so far, hash or dictionary. After doing so, I'm going to go to the next element, which is 1, and in the next element also I saw that this is 8. Now again I'm going to check that 8 exists in my hash or not. Since 8 exists in my hash, so I'll have my answer list over here. Right now the answer list is empty. Now since 8 already exists, that means it's a duplicate. I'm going to append the index at which 8 has occurred again. Okay, right, now again we will move forward. We will see that AR2 is equals to 0. 0 does not exist in our hash, so we are going to make an entry of 0 in our hash. Again, the ARR3 is basically what? 0. 0 exists in the hash, so we are going to add 3 in our answer list, right? And after iterating on all the elements of the matrix, we are going to return answer. Okay, so that's about the solution, folks, or the explanation portion. Now let us see how we can code it. Okay, so let me just jump to the coding section. Okay, so I have already coded it, and let us see how we have coded it. So first is that row decimal, which is the decimal equivalent of that particular row, and in our explanation we have called it as hash. And our answer is basically duplicate. Duplicate is where the duplicate entries will be present, or the basically we will prepare the duplicate entries or the answer in the duplicate list, and we are going to return the duplicate. Now let us see. So we are iterating on all the elements of the matrix for I in range m and for j in range n, and for each row I need to get the decimal equivalent of that particular row, right? So initially let us say the num is 0. Now this is how we are going to get the decimal equivalent, right? So the number is 0, then now we have done a left shift of that. Okay, once we have done a left shift of it, and then we are checking whether the number is 0 or 1. If the number is 1, then we are going to add 1 to it, and otherwise it remains 0. Okay, so essentially this is how we are converting the binary into decimal. You can go through some example in order to get familiar with the concept, but this is how we are doing it. Once we have obtained the decimal equivalent of that particular row, I'm going to check whether that particular decimal number exists in our hash or not. If it exists, then I'm going to append that in my duplicate list. Otherwise, I made an entry in the row decimal stating it as true, and towards the end we are going to return duplicate. So that's about the video, folks, and the explanation part. If you have any comment or question regarding this video, please feel free to drop it in a comment section and I'll try to address them. Thank you.